As readers, we never lack for books to read. Every single year, more and more incredible series are being released and put in our hands. Not having books to read is never a problem. Now, I have made videos about what series I think you should be prioritizing in your TBRs, what series I think are must reads, and I'll continue to make these videos. But whilst making this channel, you guys have also connected with me and told me what series that I need to be adding to my TBR and what things I have to read next. So today we're going to be going over my top 10 fantasy series that I need to read myself and ranking them by order of excitement. So this will just be fantasy series, not sci-fi, not historical fiction, not history. So I still will be reading those, but these are my top 10 fantasy must-read series for myself. These are just some really cool books I want you to read. So as we go through this video, comment down below what are your priority series that you want to be starting, and let me know what you think of the books on my list and if I am missing anything or if I should prioritize any of them in particular. And while you're down there leaving a comment, make sure you like the video, subscribe. We talk fun book things here, and there is so much more content coming. Thank you so much for showing up here. Now, let's dive into the list. Now, you guys that watch regularly, we're probably expecting me to jump down to my lounge room to go over the top 10 list with you. But we can't go there just yet. I've got to grab some books off the shelf because for number 10, you guys are helping me pick what that is. Because number 10 is going to be our book club read for October. The Spaced Out Wizardly Reads book club on Fable, completely free, link down in the description. At the moment, we've been reading Essex Dogs and it's been really fun. It's a great community there. If you want to read with us, jump down on that link and join the vote to pick what we're reading in October. We've got 4 options and they're all dark fantasy. So let's jump through them very quickly. The first option we have is The Promise of Blood by Mclellan. This is book 1 of his Powder Mage trilogy. This is a flintlock fantasy. What that means is it's an epic fantasy, but we're in a setting where guns are just starting to come up, so kind of like a Napoleonic era, which is a perfect thing to have in mind for Promise of Blood. We're in a country that has just overthrown their kings. They are now trying to set up a new government system from within, but there is a threat, potentially from gods, coming from without. We've got political intrigue, we've got action, we've got hard magics, as Mclellan was one of Brandon Sanderson's students, so he's got that sort of vibe going in there as well. And just look at these covers, guys. Does that not pull you into the story already? Can these guys, they've just overthrown their kings, set up a country for success and fight back a threat from the outside? Next option that we have is We Are the Dead, book 1 of the Last War trilogy by Shackle. Now, this is supposed to be one of the darkest fantasy series out there. I don't know if it's Second Apocalypse dark, but I hear it's pretty gruesome. And the pitch for this one is the war is over, we have lost, but there's still hope. Now, for something super dark, I don't see there being too much hope, but it sounds like we're in a world where magic was going away, but some people found a way to bring it back and just took over a country. And there's just a few heroes left in this country that are trying to spark something, to trying to fight back against this new power that has just risen up and taken over everyone. The book seems to have Glen Cook's approval, the author of The Black Company. He wrote likely the next Game of Thrones. I don't like when everyone just compares everything to a Game of Thrones. I don't think any of us do. Surely people have figured that out by now. But anyway, super dark fantasy, fighting back when there's almost no hope. Let me know if that one's your favorite. The next option that we have is The Justice of Kings, book 1 of the Empire of the Wolf trilogy by Swan. Again, dark fantasy. I hear there's some horror vibes that elevate in each book. We're following a king's justice who has been going throughout the lands, acting as a judge and a detective. And I think as the series goes on, he finds his cases are interweaving into something that's much larger. And we get some good intrigue, some good mystery, some good horror, and then some really good action. I don't know much else. Let me know if that interests you. Now, the last option we have, I know the least about. And that's Between Two Fires by Christopher B. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, don't ask me to. This one is a historical fantasy set in 1348 in a Norman setting where it looks like Lucifer and potentially some other angels and demons are messing with the worlds of men. I hear this one has lots of horror vibes. I get it recommended to me all the time. It's a standalone. Let me know if that one interests you. The vote is on Fable, link in the bio. Join us for October's read. So now, diving into the list proper, where things really get going, we've got number 9, and that's the Edan trilogy by Phillip Chase. If you've seen me here on BookTube, you're well familiar with who Phillip Chase is. The man is just the pleasantness and the whimsy of the Shire combined with the wisdom and the grace of elves. That is the best way you can describe Phillip Chase. And his series took him 18 years from conception to releasing. It could have been longer than that, but I believe it was around 18 years. This man is a professor of literature and he's written a trilogy. He's deeply inspired by The Lord of the Rings. And I am super excited to get into this one. It's highly touted by many of my other favorite booktubers. I've tried to keep this one very spoiler free so I can go into it with a very blank mindset and just take it for what it is. I can't wait to check this series out. So with that, we will go to number 8, which is a series I only recently heard of and I may not enjoy at all. But Johan from Library of a Viking was recently interviewing George R.R. Martin at Worldcon and asked George what series he would recommend. And George instantly went with The Demon Princes. Now, this is a 5-book series. This one goes against the rest of the list. It's a sci-fi, it's a space opera, but it's recommended from George. Like, come on, we're putting it on a fantasy list. The first one's only 100 pages, so I'm pretty sure the whole series is like the length of one of George's single books. Looks like there's a ton of political intrigue, space opera, so it had to make the list. If George recommends it, I'm going to read it. Then number 7 is another series I don't know too much about, but if Mark Lawrence writes a book, I'm going to read it. I read the Broken Empire trilogy earlier this year by Mark Lawrence, and his writing is just something I can really connect with and enjoy. And his library trilogy has become pretty much everyone's favorite work by him. So I've got to check it out. It looks like we've got a vast ancient library with 2 people trapped inside. It looks like our story explores the power of knowledge and the nature of stories. I am completely sold on that. It's a story about libraries and books. What more do we want as readers? Now, at number 6, things really start to get turned up and we're really starting to get to our big, grand series. So we've got The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. Now, this is just a 4-book series, but they're 4 chonkers. This is supposed to be full of political intrigue, military strategy, and moral dilemmas. I hear the character work is phenomenal, and Ken Liu can get you to connect to characters very quickly due to his work with short stories that he's really good at. We've got some grand world building inspired by Chinese history, some really intricate world building and mythology. And I hear this is just fantasy done at its absolute finest. It's got Petrick's approval, it's got Vikings approval, it's got Bookworm's approval. Why wouldn't I want to check it out? Then for number 5, you guys know I love a dark read. I just read 5 Warrior Angels. I loved it. I read the first law. I said it wasn't that dark. Jay Kristoff, one of my favorite authors. And whenever I'm talking dark fantasy, you guys in the comments let me know you're not reading dark fantasy unless you've read The Second Apocalypse by R. Scott Baker. Apparently this is the darkest fantasy gets, and I have to know what that is. From what I've heard, this is a complex epic fantasy with very grim tones, philosophical depth, and intricate world building. It sounds like we've got some crusades going on and some gods showing up, and things just get taken to next level darkness. The world building is just turned up to 1,000,000. There's tons of history and lore that you can learn and really dive into with this series. I've heard it's the closest thing you can get to Malazan, but it's a lot easier to follow than Malazan. So where Malazan just continues to grow and expand, it's a little bit more contained than that, so you can follow the story a bit easier. And everything I've heard about it has just made me want to read it more. And R. Scott Baker's Second Apocalypse series is broken into 2 series, where you've got the Prince of Nothing trilogy, the Aspect Emperor Quartet. And I've heard nothing but good things, but it's really dark. Then after that, I've got a book series I actually physically own, and that's the Empire trilogy by Janny Wurts and Raymond E. Fiest. I've read a little bit of Janny's works already with The Wars of Light and Shadow. I've read the first book in that, and Janny's writing blows me away. Her character work is phenomenal, her world building is intricate, and if she's working with Raymond E. Fiest, someone of renown, I couldn't imagine these guys not putting something brilliant together. From what I've heard and the research I did when just checking out what this was about so I could talk to you guys about it today, I'm even more hyped to check this one out. It looks like we're following a young lady from a royal family who loses her family very early on in the books and has to take over and be in charge, probably become a queen potentially, and we're in a very patriarchal world. So she just has all the odds against her and she has to overcome that. So seeing Janny's perspective on that sort of thing is something that intrigues the hell out of me. Janny has phenomenal work with characters and just getting you inside someone's head. Her writing and prose is beautiful. I don't know who did more of the writing in this series, but I can't wait to dive into it. I hear it's deeply political. I hear the world building is really expansive and intricate, and that there's even some really good action in here. I feel like this is going to be like a top 5 all-time series for me, with just the intrigue, the grandness, and the writing. And the characters, most likely. Can't wait to dive into this. Just look at these nice covers as well while we're at it, that I was lovely gifted by a friend. And in speaking about that lovely gift, let's just show you guys it right now. So I've got my nice Raymond Fiest hardcovers here, all given to me by the same person who was cleaning up the shelves and throwing some things away. And then, coming right down to the bottom, we have some more Fiest here. So down through here, we've got our trade paperbacks. So I have all of them. I have Magician. I have like, close to 30 Fiest books. And you guys will have to let me know if I need to read The Magician, like the first Rift War trilogy initially, or I think it's a quartet now because they broke this book up into 2 parts, or if I can jump straight into Daughter of Empire, because Janny is just phenomenal. I really want to read that one really bad. Then at number 3, we have the Greenbone Saga by Fonda. And this one, I know it's mafia based. I know it's a little bit more modern, a bit more urban style fantasy. We've got something called Jade that unlocks magical abilities for people. And everything else I know about this is just from you guys in the comments letting me know that if I want good characters, I need to read Greenbone. If I want good action, I need to read Greenbone. There's some good martial arts in there. If I want good political intrigue, I need to read Greenbone. From what you guys have told me, Greenbone should be another one that we breaking that top 5 list for me. So I hope you guys are right. From what you've told me, I am super hyped on this one. Then at number 2, we've got your favorite author's author. We've got Tad Williams' Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. I love A Song of Ice and Fire, and every time I tell someone that, they're like, have you read Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn? That series inspired George R. R. Martin to write A Song of Ice and Fire. So I'm like, it's time. I need to get into it. I hear it's just a nice, slow build, really in-depth political intrigue, really in-depth world building, and a slow build that really pays off. And it sounds like it's just classic fantasy at its finest, a tale of good versus evil, mortals versus immortals, a story of how power can corrupt. And the things that people tout about this series is the immersive world building, is the complex characters, and the way that this series can subvert tropes in a way you're not expecting. I can't wait to jump into this one. This is a high priority for me once I've finished Realm of the Eldlings. But that's only number 2. So number 1 is The Black Company by Glen Cook. I've heard about this one most often when I hear people talk about Malazan and how The Black Company was an inspiration for Steven Erikson. So this is military fantasy, and it's written from the medic of the Black Company mercenaries. So we get an inside perspective of what these guys are doing as they're running around the continent, fulfilling their roles as mercenaries, and just being a military company. So you get grim, gritty military fantasy. You get a growing plot from book to book as you see different medics, as different medics die and new ones come in. And you see where this company is going and how there's a bigger story building. I hear the world building is just deeply intricate, but very fresh and creative. And it just sounds like everything I love in fantasy is in this book, with a deep, intricate plot, a deep, intricate world. Dark, gritty, on the ground, very real, hanging out with the soldiers. It's not a pretty place, it's a gritty place, and it's an environment that I love reading about. Something like I'm reading Essex Dogs now, and it just feels like I'd be getting that same sort of vibe. I can't wait to check out this one. So with that, I have to run, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a great day. Let me know which of these series you're most excited to read, what series outside of this you're reading, and let me know if there's anything I need to add to this list. See you guys. Have a great day.